Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. Hopefully, you had a great weekend. Keith had a great weekend frying himself. He had a weekend on the soccer field, and now Keith, we get crispy fried, sunburned Keith Smith here. You can find him on Twitter at Keith Smith NBA. You can find me at Trevor_Lane. Keith, how are you feeling? Just kind of even sitting up is difficult right now, huh?
Yeah, I'm a little sore. I in general, I listen to my wife more. I should really listen to her when she's like, you should put some sunscreen on. We had a uncommonly warm weekend. It was up near 90 on Saturday, and then in the mid 80s yesterday on Sunday. And we were out on the soccer field. Our daughter's team went to the finals of a soccer tournament. Anybody who's played in those or
It's a
has
long day.
kids knows you kind of go into that not knowing what that second day is going to look like. And we ended up out there all day, and it was great. I mean, they it ended in absolute heartbreak. We lost
Oh.
in penalty kicks in the finals, and
Mm-hmm.
as I know you know, Trevor, our daughter is the keeper, so she was pretty brokenhearted. It went to the 12th
Oh my
one,
gosh.
and she had saved four prior to that, and just the last one tipped in off her fingers. Just a good hit, and it was what it was. But yeah, tough go for the girls, but they played great. She hadn't allowed a
Mm-hmm.
goal all tournament up until, and then she had actually in the final with about 4 minutes left saved a penalty kick
Oh, nice.
earlier. So yeah, so that was we kind of like, all right, she saved that one. Like, all right, they soccer god smiled upon them, but they just couldn't punch one across in the final. But with a little bit of time, we'll heal all wounds, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll be happy with their second place. But yeah, I'm hurting today. I'm a little sunburned. So if you guys see me, like, if you're watching on YouTube and you see me kind of wiggling around in the chair and moving, it's because it's a struggle to find a comfortable spot to sit. But alas, we power through.
We
Bigger problems in the world.
we find a way. We find a way
Yeah.
to get it done. MLS also came back this weekend.
Yeah.
That was a lot. I really enjoyed watching that. The Galaxy got an exciting win, and in the 90th minute with a Chicharito goal. Your Orlando team did really well. They got a
I
2-0
did.
win.
Yep.
So soccer's back. It gives us a distraction from what the Lakers are doing right now.
Oh man.
But we have a lot to break down around the
This is
NBA.
NBA front office show, not
Yes.
Lakers Nation, so we'll be able to
Mm,
not talk about that.
yes.
Fortunately for you, for it will give you a brief respite from it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. It's much needed. Let's start things off with Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons now dealing with back soreness after ramping things up. It's weird. Like, I understand Philadelphia 76ers fans are upset still with Ben Simmons, and so
Sure.
there's a lot of them like kind of celebrating that Ben Simmons is dealing with a back issue or his back's bugging him. Um, 76ers fans are also now instantly James Harden defenders, and a lot of them were the same people criticizing James Harden not
Yeah.
that long ago, but now they're all, what, James Harden doesn't get fouled all that much, or no, it's well, if you don't want him to shoot that many free throws, then stop fouling
Don't
him.
follow them.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Anyway, Ben Simmons, back issues as he's starting to ramp up, maybe to be expected if you haven't been playing for a while and now suddenly you start playing, that you're going to be dealing with some things. But Keith, I wanted to bring it up because it fits into your conspiracy theory here that suddenly he's got a back issue and maybe that will keep him out of the game against the 76ers in Philly.
Yeah, and to be fair, Ben Simmons has battled back
Yes.
issues in the past. He missed a chunk of the playoffs a few years back due to a back issue. I think that might even been the bubble playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
if I remember correctly. So that doesn't overly surprise me that he's got this kind of going on. And there was some talk when he first returned to Philadelphia that was part of what was going to take him a while to ramp his conditioning
Mm-hmm.
up. So yeah, so I don't think this is completely made up or anything like that, but I do think it is kind of convenient that in 10 days or so, maybe by then it'll be feeling good enough for him to get out there. Somebody asked me the other day, I think it was in a radio appearance, how long does he have to play for then to be effective in the postseason? And I said, that's not an easy question to answer because this is not come back and play with a bunch of guys you've played with. this has come back, play a different role with a whole new group of guys. So I think you would want, as close to a month as you could get of games. And even then, can he play every game? Are they going to play Kevin Durant every
Mhm.
game? We're going to get into it a little bit later, but still don't know what Kyrie Irving's playing status will look like. So yeah, so it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this goes. But I continue to hold to my belief we will not see him play in that March 10th game in Philadelphia, and maybe shortly thereafter that he'll come back.
From the Nets perspective, if it's anywhere close, I'm probably just holding him out of that game. As much as personally,
Yeah,
as you know, and you and I, we want to see him play in that game
sure.
because of all the drama and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But if I'm the Nets, from their perspective, if it's hey, we think he might be able to come back that game. That's like that would be his first game. I'm gonna say, nah, let's make the next game his
yep.
first game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no reason
Yeah.
to push that. It just doesn't, I mean, that's going to be, there'll be time for that later. I guess is the way I think about that.
All right, let's jump from there to the Kyrie Irving thing. Who was fantastic the other night, looked great. But now it sounds like we're getting closer to the vaccine mandate being lifted, which would in theory allow him to play in home games. Except there's still another mandate in place that would perhaps prevent him. Although he would be allowed into the building now, but would not be
Yeah.
able to play. I don't think that's going to stay long term, right? I think once the city mandate gets lifted, you'll probably see all the other ones get lifted too, and then we'll be fine. But if it does stay that way, to me, that's where it really crosses the line. Like, if he's allowed in the building, and you can argue that there shouldn't be a reason why that there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to play right now. But if he's allowed in the building to sit on the bench and not play in the game, that to me really makes no sense.
And there was some countering to that. There was some counter reporting that
Mm-hmm.
came out that said he would not be allowed in the
Okay.
building as an employee. If he wants to buy a ticket and sit in the stands,
Which
there's nothing that can stop him, which that is
still,
also, I don't fully grasp
no,
that. I will say though, I don't know if you saw it, I'm gonna guess not. The mayor of New York did come out
I did see
today
this.
and said this morning in an interview that the private sector mandate, which is basically if you're going to go work it was really designed out of the office
Mm-hmm.
buildings, but if you're going to go work in an office building, you still have to have your first dose because they don't want the idea behind it is they don't want you and I sitting next to each other and passing back and forth COVID or
Sure.
anything like that. So, but it applies across the board. He came out and said he's not sure that when that one will get lifted and specifically referenced Kyrie Irving and said it wouldn't be fair to everybody else to do this for one individual player just because he's an athlete. So we'll see. I mean, we're still down to, I think it was 8 games the other day. I think now it's down to
Mm-hmm.
7. And as far as I've been told, everyone with the Nets is hopeful and optimistic, which they've said, but they're still planning as if we're not going to have them for home games. We're building out our plan. And then if we do, great. It's you kind of almost think of it as if it's an injury or something, great. Then we can get the guy back in there. But yeah, it's definitely still remains a mess to this point.
It really is. And they got a big win over the Bucks. Kyrie was great.
Mm-hmm.
What, 38 points, 5 assists. I mean, and I'm just watching him out of the floor. You went, oh my gosh! Like there's very few players that could pull off the things that he was pulling off in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, he just looked
Yep.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Um, but still, just going back to logic, and I know it's different being in an NBA arena and being out on the court than being in an office building. So logic
Sure.
tells me if he's allowed to buy
Yeah.
a ticket and be in the game and be there, if he can buy
Yes.
a ticket for the front row and be sitting right there for courtside seats, he should be able to play in the game. So we'll see if ultimately, that prevails or what happens here, but something to keep an eye on. And I think something that, I mean, we're talking about something that could potentially have a major impact in the outcome of the Eastern Conference playoffs, maybe the outcome of
Yep.
which team winds up winning it all at the end of the season here.
Sure. Yeah. It is funny too. I'll say two things. One is there's all these people who go on Twitter every time a new thing comes out and is like, see, Kyrie won. Won what? I mean, he's already missed like 60
Mm-hmm.
plus games. Like he didn't win anything here. And then you get a bunch of people who fire back with he could play, just get vaccinated. no one is changing their minds on this situation.
Mhm.
Just it's not even worth the argument that people get into. Like it is, it is what it is at this point. All we're gonna do is report on what is and what isn't. And
Mhm.
I know for me, I don't have a lot of interest in getting into the opinion part of it anymore because it's everybody's locked in where they're going to
Yes.
be on this one. So
Yep.
yeah.
Absolutely. All right. In some positive news, Michael Porter Jr., there's some hope that he's going to play again this season. And if that happens, the Denver Nuggets could quickly become the proverbial team nobody wants to see in the first round
Yeah.
in the Western Conference. You get Jamal Murray back, you get Michael Porter Jr., you could be off and running in Denver. I mean, and besides just what this could mean for the Nuggets, it's always nice to hear a player recovering from injury, particularly something as potentially serious as what he's been dealing with.
Hmm.
So that just surface level, that's great. But this is another thing that could have a major impact on the playoffs, which are quickly approaching.
Yeah, I said on Twitter they could be the actual team nobody wants to play, right? Because will do that. I mean, we're going to do it
Yeah,
too,
sure.
where it's oh, this team's a 5, 6, 7, 8 seed, and nobody wants to see them. And it's like we all fall in love with generally the same team, and then usually that team gets swept in the first round or something and gets beaten fairly easily. But in the case of the Nuggets, that could be very real because this is a team that is at full strength is really really good. So yeah, and hey, I'm all for let's get the Nets to full strength. Let's get the Nuggets to full strength. Let's get full strength teams by the postseason because it just makes the playoffs that much better. And these playoffs already look like they're going to be really good on both sides. So I think I mean, of course, we'll have a couple walkover series just because it happens. We've still got a month and a half to go in the regular season anyway.
Hmm.
And who knows who will be available by the time we get to that point. But it really is one of those things where right now, today, it looks like, man, we could have great series, in every series, great long series in every
Hmm.
series on both sides of the bracket. So I'm excited for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. That would be fantastic to see. Speaking of back injuries, Draymond Green returns to
Hmm.
practice for the Warriors. Now, it doesn't sound like he's doing everything, doing 5-on-0 conditioning and things like that, which is to be
Yeah, no
expected. Yeah,
contact.
your
Yeah.
first practice back, you're not going to be doing a bunch of contact, but still, this is a big step. The Warriors have been, I mean, they haven't been quite as good since losing Draymond. There's no question, which
Their defense just isn't as good yet.
exactly, which is to be expected. He is a tremendous player. By the way, last night's game, the Warriors and the Mavs was fantastic. The Mavs, incredible resilience to bounce back and eventually win that game. But this could be big for the Warriors to get Draymond back in, reintegrate him, because there's going to be a little that bit of that kind of getting reacclimated to Draymond being out on the floor, figuring out your rotation again, all that sort of stuff, and then getting him back in time for that playoff push to really be firing on all cylinders come playoff time. So big development here for the Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, and they're getting pressed from behind now. The Grizzlies are only a game and a half back, so it's really tightened up there in the West. And Memphis continues to play well. They rarely lose more than a couple games in a row. So I think they're going to hang in that. And I think it's interesting with Memphis too because the Jazz behind them for the 3-4. So Memphis has that motivation to keep pushing
Mm-hmm.
because not only can they catch the Warriors, they're trying to hold off the Jazz too. So I think that has become one of the more interesting races. I still think the Suns, I know they've lost 2 in a row now without Chris Paul and
Yeah.
all that. I still think they're fine. They're 6 games clear of Golden State. I can't imagine that deficit gets made up. But yeah, it's funny. I also, what was interesting, I was looking at it today and I was like, wow, we generally by this time of year, we have a team that's maybe cracked 50 wins.
Mm-hmm.
They might be sitting at something like 50-9 or 51-9 or something. At the 60 game point, and we're not there, which kind of makes when I look back at like those Warriors teams, like how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
Month and a half to go, and these teams are 3 games away from what the Warriors did, record wise. It just that's really unbelievable.
How many? And this is kind of an aside. How many legitimate answers do you think there are to the question right now? Who's winning this year's NBA championship?
Yeah, that's a great question. I You don't have. I wouldn't have to go too hard to probably get to 8 teams that I feel like could actually win it.
Which is not that's not the norm, and that's my
No.
point. That's my point.
Yeah.
Like you think about that Warriors season, it was like, okay, it's going to be the Warriors, and if it's not the Warriors,
It's
you've
gonna
got
be
a
the
couple.
Cavs.
Yeah, right. You've
Yeah.
got a couple other
Yep.
teams. That's it.
Yeah.
This, I
Yep.
mean, it wouldn't. There's so many teams where I'm looking at the standings right now, and I'm like, it wouldn't shock me if it was them. Oh, but it wouldn't shock me if it was this team. There's so many different
Yeah.
possibilities, which,
Yep.
as you referenced earlier, could be setting us up for a really exciting playoffs this year. Um,
Knocking on wood just to make sure.
Speaking of teams that nobody wants to see come playoff time, though, Paul George now making progress. Now, the Clippers were
Yeah.
still playing coy in terms of an actual return date. Ty Lue said he doesn't know exactly when he's going to return, still needs more time. So we can't even say he's going to be back this season. But all we know is that they did imaging recently and showed that he is indeed making progress, which that's great news. I don't know if it gets him back this season, but if he suddenly comes back, I think the Clippers are going to be that much more dangerous, obviously, come playoff time.
Yeah, and to add to that, for all that it went quiet, we still have not been told anything on Kawhi
Mm-mm.
with certainty yet either. So that is that's one of where you kind of start looking and you're like, huh, like, where could this go? I still think we're getting down to, if they're not looking like they're going to be back within the next 2 or 3 weeks, it's probably at that point you say we're going to run with what we
Mm-hmm.
have.
Yeah.
There's no reason to try to reintegrate these guys, because again, you need some time to get out there, be on the court if you want to get into playoff games. But they're playing pretty good, right? They're right there with Minnesota for that 7-8 spot. They've created a little bit of distance now on the Lakers, on both of them. So yeah, let's see where that goes. With them. But yeah, I mean, if you could get even one of those two guys back, yeah, that turns into all of a sudden, if you're the Suns, Warriors, Grizzlies, you're like, man, we had these great seasons, and it's Denver,
Yep.
Clippers, Dallas, like sitting on that other side. And it's like, really? Like, like I got to deal with this now. Like that just, that feels almost like, man, like maybe next year we don't push so hard. I don't
Right.
know.
Right. And this is, I think we should mention that the Clippers, they've done this before with injuries. We saw it last year in the playoffs where they
Sure.
were sort of not being very forthcoming with how injured Kawhi actually
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And now here they are kind of doing something similar. So you never know. You never know what's actually going on there.
No, it's funny just on that standing stuff too. Same thing exists in the East, right?
Mhm.
Because you got Brooklyn sitting there
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
in the 7 or 8 spot. It's like, really, like Miami and Chicago. Like Chicago has their best season in decades, or not decades, like a decade. And it's like, hey, now you get a first round matchup with the
Kevin
Brooklyn
Durant
Nets.
and
Like,
Kyrie and yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah, here's Kevin Durant for 7 games. Good luck, knowing he could win 2 or 3 by himself.
And
Like,
here's home court advantage. Oh wait, that just means Kyrie can play in a
yeah,
game
that just
7
means
against
Kyrie
us.
yeah, yeah. It
Hmm.
just does feel a little bit like, thanks for
Yeah.
this. Like, I appreciate that, but yeah.
Let's move on to another injured star. Damian Lillard underwent ab surgery 6 weeks ago. He's made progress. He's going to be reevaluated 2 to 3 weeks. We're getting so close to the end of the season now.
Yeah, he's
I
not
don't
coming.
see him actually playing. I mean, good to
Yeah.
hear that he's making progress, but
Yep.
I don't see a reason why the Blazers bring him back.
The only way is if it's one of those, get him in the last couple games, just so he can play, feel good going into the
The
summer.
Paul George.
Maybe, but it doesn't seem like it's the kind of injury you need to rebuild confidence in yourself in, like what Paul George went through with the broken leg. So yeah, my guess is he's when I saw that and they said 2 to 3 weeks reevaluated, 3 weeks puts us, we're starting it real close to the end of March, and that's, means there's only about two and a half weeks left in the season. So yeah, I find it hard to believe he comes back. It's so funny too, because now, Nurkic is shut down. They went through that right after the trades. They got that little bump and started winning a bunch of games, and now they've lost a couple in a row. New Orleans has won a couple, and it's like, all right, where are we going with this 10th seed in the West? Does anybody actually want it? Like, who's trying to win this last play-in spot?
Not the Lakers.
Oh man.
let's get it. Well, okay, we've got a little bit more positive injury news from your hometown team, Markelle Fultz,
Yeah.
making his season
Yeah.
debut tonight. Welcome back, Markelle Fultz.
Yeah,
That's a good
really
thing.
good. Yeah, no, this is great. The Magic have been, he's been going through practices for a while, doing contact work, and now they're finally going to get him back on the floor. And for Orlando, this is, they have played, they've got 21 games left. So this is put him out there with Jalen Suggs, with Cole Anthony, with RJ
Mm-hmm.
Hampton. Let's really see what we have in this grouping of these guys in the backcourt, because these are our guys that we all have signed for at least the next couple of seasons. Let's see what that looks like here. Let's start to figure out that process. My guess is we're going to see a lot of 3 guard groupings. They've been doing it already because they play Suggs, Anthony, and Harris together sometimes, and those kind of things. Sometimes with Hampton too. So yeah, that's it. It's really good. It's just gonna be good to see him back out there too. They were better than I think people remember, because it was now feels like it was forever ago. But they were playing okay at the start of last season. Then he got hurt, and then everything kind of went to crap, and then they blew up the team and moved in a different direction, which I don't disagree with. It was the right move to do that, but it is important to remember, like he was playing pretty good. So yeah, so I'm excited to see him back. Still nothing, because people are invariably going to ask, nothing on Jonathan Isaac. They have not even, other than anytime there's even a chance to ask, it's he's working hard, he's doing well, no setbacks, and that's we hear get no updates. So I'm starting to think again, you get to the beginning of March, which will be tomorrow, and the guy hasn't played. Yeah, maybe we don't see them this year.
Yep. Agreed. Lakers fans, Kendrick Nunn. Yeah. Have not seen him either, so you got to start wondering there too. Do we actually see him this season?
That's going to be an interesting what if to go back and look at, because that's how they use the taxpayer mid level, right? Was on him, and they've it's unfortunate, right? Because he got hurt so late in the year, but it's but yeah, it's that was a missed opportunity in retrospect, right? It looked like a good signing. I was high on it when they made it. But yeah, I do kind of like, would you just, knowing all things being equal, would you have just kept Dennis Schroeder for that money? I don't think he would have taken it from the Lakers. But yeah, it's just one of those. That's one of those things when I think we go back on it. Yeah, I don't think that makes the difference between a 10 game swing in record.
No,
or
definitely
anything.
not.
But like, yeah, it is hurt for sure.
Right.
And it sucked the way it went down too, because it happened right at the end of the preseason when you kind of, Frank Vogel had his rotations built. He knew where he was going with everything. And then it's like, now major guy is out, and we got to figure this out. So,
and it's been constantly.
Okay,
is he? At first it was 3 weeks, and then okay, by December. Okay, no wait, now end of January. Oh no, end of March now. So it's been just one step, which I'm sure he's extremely frustrated as well.
I kind of wonder too. That one starts to lean towards, I don't know if I'd play him and just, then you can tell, hey, yeah, no, he looks really good, in workouts and practices. He looks great, because you get him back on the floor and he doesn't look good. All of a sudden, teams are going to be like, I don't know about that $5 million next year. Like,
which he's probably going to pick that option.
I got to believe he picks it up. I would be shocked if he didn't at this point.
All right. Speaking of point guard injuries, Rajon Rondo, toe sprain. So he's out for probably a couple weeks here, and in a resulting move, Tim Frazier signed by the Cavs to at least kind of hold down the fort while Rondo is out.
Tim Frazier, man, that dude, keep going, Tim Frazier, right. Man. Or he's going to be like Ish Smith. By the end of it, they'll have each played for every team. Combine them, they'll have each played for all 30 teams. Like, it seems like it's where we're headed. But there's benefit in just being a solid vet that teams know, like, stays ready. We can throw him in there if we need to and go. But yeah, I mean, a lot of Brandon Goodwin minutes right now, because he's the only healthy ball handler that the Cavs have. And then they're kind of using Chetty Osman as the backup there. So that's a little, that's probably not going to work all that great.
Thomas Satoransky waived by the Spurs, and he's going to sign with the Wizards. He's going to be rejoining them. So Satoransky to Washington. I don't
get.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Why? Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe he really liked it.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, just familiarity. That could be. I mean, role
is
just offering minutes.
I mean, I guess I don't. I mean, but they're They're not good. They're probably not. I mean, they're only 2 games behind the Hornets and Hawks, so maybe they could catch them for a play-in
Mm-hmm.
spot. But I don't know. If I was the Wizards, I wouldn't be pushing for that. I like just let me make sure that they have their own pick. I think they do, right? Yeah, they have their own picks. So just yeah, that one's weird. Not the buyout part of it. That makes
Right.
complete
Yeah.
sense. Spurs less than the Spurs need is that got 500 guards on
Mm-hmm.
that team. It feels like, but yeah, I don't. Why the Wizards? Like, I feel like they're a handful of contenders could have offered him a bigger role,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Tyreke Evans is working out for the Bucks, trying to work his way back into the NBA. The one-time Rookie of the Year, I believe, when he was in his first year.
Might have
Well,
been.
obviously his first
I'm
year,
gonna
but
look.
yeah, I believe he was Rookie of the Year. Guy who's shown some versatility over the course of his career, and now trying to get back into the NBA. He was exiled for a while, and now,
2 years.
yeah, and
Yep.
now here he is. I don't know. I don't know what to make in terms of fit and all that kind of stuff with the Bucks, but talent wise, he's been good. I know we've talked about him before. He wasn't great in his last stop, but
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to work out a player like this. There's
No.
nothing
Yeah. I
wrong with
mean,
that.
see if there's something
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Exactly. And for the Bucks, even let's say it's the Bucks or one of these other teams, you put them at the end of your bench. You can put them in, later in a game and see what kind of comes of it. It's almost kind of how J.R. Smith's career got restarted,
Mm-hmm.
right? Lance Stevenson this
Yeah.
year, his career kind of got restarted in a similar way. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it wasn't great last time when we saw him with the Pacers in 2018-19. But yeah, and now I think he's 32 now. Yeah, he's 32 now. So he'll be 33 at the start of next season. But well, let's see where it goes. And you're absolutely correct. 2009, 2010 Rookie
There
of
it
the
is.
Year for the Sacramento
There it
Kings.
is. Haywood Highsmith
That feels like it was a lifetime ago, right?
pretty much
You know
was
what's funny? That was his career high scoring.
his rookie
Was
season.
his rookie year. 20.1 points per game. I'm on the basketball reference page right now looking at it. Yeah, 20.1 points per game. And then he went down in scoring for, let's see,
Uh-huh.
4 consecutive seasons after that, but kind of settled into a different kind of role after those first couple of years.
I
But
would have to imagine that for any, assuming, for any player whose career has gone past their rookie year, that's probably very rare for the rookie year to
yeah,
be their high in points. I wonder,
yeah,
how many other players can say that? Probably not many.
yeah. I mean, especially guys who, they played, like you said, went on to play, for several
Hmm.
seasons after. Yeah, it's kind of I don't know. That's an off-season
Yes, yeah,
question. We don't
that's
gotta
something to
spend
look
the
at
time.
when we're not in season. Um,
I was about to take us down a path and let's start looking it up.
let's find
We were
out.
going to
No.
be 4 hours later. Well, you were right. We didn't find
All
one.
right. Well, Tyreke Evans gets that claim to fame. Haywood Highsmith signs a 10-day with the Miami Heat.
Yep. Second
Second
10 day.
10-day. Okay. So this is it then?
Well, first 10 day, his first was actually an 11-day deal. But I don't know how many people know this. The 10 day is the greater of 10 days or 3 games because he
That's
signed
right.
it before the All-Star break. It carried through the All-Star break. So he ended up on an 11-day deal, now a second. And then if the Heat want to keep him after this one, they have to sign him for the rest of the season.
Okay. Armani Brooks goes to the G League instead of taking a two-way deal. So that's interesting. Most players would take a two-way deal, but maybe there's some reasons behind
Yeah.
that.
It sounds like what's going on with, I don't know if this is the case with Armani Brooks or not, but a lot of teams are these late two ways. They're insisting on them being 2-year two-way deals. And a lot of guys don't want to do that. They don't want to lock in on a two-way for 2 years. They'd rather, I'll take a two-way for the rest of the year, catch on, finish out with the team, and then free agent in the
Mm-hmm.
summer, and then I can, kind of pick my next spot and go from there. Not a lot of guys are interested in locking in for 2 years on two-way deals. There is signs too next year may transition back to the original two-way
The
rules
limits.
where there's game limits and all those other
Mhm.
things on them, just as we hopefully get further away from COVID impacted seasons. But it's I don't know what's going on with him specifically, but that is kind of interesting that he turned down two-way opportunities. My guess is he probably feels like, because this guy is a knockdown shooter
Yeah.
when he plays, usually he probably feels like I will get a real shot to catch on with a team here on a 10-day, maybe on the rest of the season contract and go from there.
Last thing we've got for today. Let's finish with some irony. Matt Ryan signs with the Celtics. Because of
Yeah,
course.
not that Matt Ryan. Yeah. Yeah, this one's kind of funny. You're right. So the Celtics are, if we go back after the trade deadline, they had 5 open roster spots. They filled 2 of them with Luke Cornett on a rest of the season contract, and then they signed Sam Hauser, who was one of their two-way players. But that just in turn opened up that two-way spot. Ryan went to training camp with the Denver Nuggets. He's been playing for the Grand Rapids Gold, and more recently played with Team USA in the World Cup qualifiers. They build that team mostly from G League guys, but there's veterans. Isaiah Thomas played with that team a couple times ago, and then Joe Johnson recently just played with them as well. So it sounds like when that's all wrapped up, he's going to join the Celtics on a two-way. We'll see if that's one of those 2-year two-ways or not. He's a 6'7" forward, has some shooting range. He made, I want to say it's about 38% of his 3-pointers on almost 10 attempts per game in the G League. So that's pretty good volume. And that's what Brad Stevens said. They were looking for shooting and shooting with size. What everybody wants is, let's find our Duncan Robinson, right? Let's find a guy who we bring in and we develop him and go from there. And he's kind of got similar-ish mold to Robinson, where he's, again, good size, can really shoot. He's a little older of a prospect like Robinson was. I kept him from getting drafted. So, yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, if nothing else, it's a two-way spot for the rest of the year, and you kind of go from there. And then they've got 2 guys on 10 days, so the Celtics still kind of have 3 standard open roster spots to see. By the way, tomorrow, March 1st, is the buyout deadline. So what that means is not to add players. You can add players all the way up to the end of the season, but tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern, if guys aren't waived by then they're not eligible for the playoffs. So anybody who's going to take a bio, it's going to happen by tomorrow. And doesn't seem like we're going to get much more on that front.
Been kind of a dud of a buyout market this year, hasn't it?
I think guys are not wanting to give up money. Yeah. I think that's the one thing, which if you think about it, right after a couple uncertain seasons, probably makes some sense to hang on to your money. A lot of these guys still, a lot of that money went into escrow accounts and those kind of things. And then I think the second thing is I think teams they're not putting their, faith in, we got to do the buyout market because it's got to work for us with that. So yeah, that's I think we're in a position where just, it is what it is. We'll see. Probably, I mean, at this point, it looks like Goran Dragic, probably the top one, biggest buyout guy, and we'll see where that goes. He looked okay, thought in his first game with Brooklyn the other day. So let's see how this all turns out.
All right. Well, I think that wraps things up for today. Keith, you can go and try to rest your sunburn and
I'm gonna go put on a bunch of aloe and then go do school pickup with the air conditioning blasting on me. So it'll be I'm sure I'll be a sight to behold. But
all right, well, feel better. Front office show, we're going to get to watch Keith throughout the week as his sunburn heals up. He'll turn different shades and all that. So and
then it peels and everything else.
Right.
It'll look like a mess. Yeah, it'll be
just
fun.
Another reason to tune in to the NBA front office show. But we do appreciate everybody who's watching. We appreciate all of you. Make sure you do subscribe to the NBA front office show. Turn on those notifications as well. Till next time, stay safe and see ya.